Okay, I got to ask it here. I asked it at first service. I got crickets. I couldn't believe it because to me, who remembers the trunk monkey? Anybody, please? No. I can't believe you guys never saw the trunk monkey commercials. They were done by this suburban auto group. I got to send you the link. I showed a couple people. It's hilarious. There's a bunch of them. Anyway, the one guy makes a big mistake of honking at this guy, right? Big, burly, humongous dude in this giant truck, right? Well, next thing you know, the guy's out of his truck and he's just banging on the window. You know, the poor guy's, he's like, who do you think you are, man? Come on out. You think you're a tough guy? Get out here. You want a piece of me? You think you're such a great driver? You know, and the guy takes a Kleenex and puts it up on the window and he's just trying to ignore this guy, right? And then finally he remembers. He has trunk monkey. He pushes the button and the monkey jumps out of the trunk. He's got a crowbar and he blasts this guy in the head, knocks him out, and high fives the dude and gets back in the trunk. And you guys never saw, they did a bunch of those commercials. They're funny, man. They are. They are funny. You got to check it out. Come on, though. Seriously, we've all... Okay, whether you know about trunk monkey or not, wouldn't it be cool to kind of sometimes have a trunk monkey, though? Right? We probably all... to handle the scary people that we encounter in our lives. And we are going to encounter scary people. They're out there. Unfortunately, trunk monkey is not real. Apparently, the Attorney General said, nope, we're not going to do that. But some people act as if it were. These people wish for a trunk monkey instead of acting like powerful people who set limits and boundaries in their relationships. Instead of that, they sit there and wait for the trunk monkey to solve their problems and let other people just steamroll over them. You see, the problem is when we choose to be powerless in our relationships, nobody wins. It's a lose-lose. We have to accept the fact that this world is filled with a lot of scary people. And that they, along with Satan, are always, and I mean always, fighting to weaken and destroy our connections with God and with other people. We know, though, the good news is what? The great news is what? That war's already been won on the cross. Nothing can ever separate us from the love of Jesus Christ. And the other good news is it's not only is it all consuming, but it's never ending. His love and grace and mercy for us will never run out. We need to stop wishing then for a trunk monkey and start confronting our problems and setting healthy boundaries. Who would agree that our lives are a gift from God, right? Amen? Yeah. He's always sending us love messages too in various and exciting ways, but sometimes we don't get them. You know how I've talked about God doesn't really talk to us, right? Has anybody ever heard like, Susan, this is God speaking. You should be out evangelizing instead of watching the Dodger game. Have you ever heard that, Susan? No.
Yes.
Have you really? Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, bad example. But God sends us those, God talks to us through people, right? Through situations. And he's sending us love messages too, but a lot of times we miss them because we don't see them. We always need to be on the lookout for God's expressions of love. Okay, nobody remembers Trunk Monkey. Does everybody, who remembers the Garden of Eden? Can I, right? Okay, I'm being a little sarcastic.
Yes.
Good. Okay, at least you remember the Garden of Eden. God has also given us each a garden here on earth to tend, meaning family, friends, relationships, right? You've heard me talk about the two gardens, the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve messed that one up royally, right? The garden of the new heaven and earth. And then here we are in between. But today I want to say that also can be considered a garden. We've been given, our relationships are the trees, are the beauty of our gardens to tend here on earth. And we have the responsibility to tend them, no one else, us. Healthy relationships grow when two people embrace their individual responsibility to tend what? Their garden, their own garden. We always have to take care of ourselves before we can tend to others. It may seem selfish, but we have to. I almost did it again. Stewardesses, that's a non-politically correct term, correct? It's flight attendants, right? So flight attendants, what do they tell you when you're on the plane, when they're doing all that stuff that nobody ever listens to, right? In case of loss of cabin pressure, the mask will drop, and what do they tell you to do if you're traveling with little Tommy? Put your mask on first, right? Because if you don't, you might just pass out, and then little Tommy's sitting there like, right? So we have to take care of ourselves before we can take care of other people. The more we tend to our own gardens, our own relationships and boundaries and everything in those gardens, the more we can create an atmosphere of respect in those relationships. You see, because people will see, they will see how we tend to our own gardens, our own relationships, and that the relationships new that are born out of these relationships that have mutual respect for each other's needs, okay? On the other hand, boundaries need to be set with those people who see, one of the drawbacks of tending our own gardens and making it really lush and really beautiful is this. Boundaries need to be set with those who see the good in our garden, but relate to us as consumers. In other words, their garden is lacking. They're not taking care of it. They see our garden with these beautiful relationships of love and grace. They're like, I want some of that, right? They're attracted to us and the good we have to offer because we've been tending to our stuff, but they're stingy when it comes to their own garden. These folks might be wolves in sheep's clothing. Who remembers the flock of seagulls? I can't say that without stopping and saying, who remembers the band Flock of Seagulls? One-hit wonders, right? Come on, Flock of Seagulls. That's not what I wanted to talk about. Who remembers the flock of seagulls in Finding Nemo? Anybody? What were they saying over and over and over? Thank you, Chris. Just over and over, right? Mine, mine, mine. They repeat this over and over and over as they peck at food and fish and even each other. They're completely unaware of what the other person is saying. Mine, mine, mine. Where they have no clue what the others are saying. Sort of like The View. They repeat it over and over and over again, and they peck. You see, seagull consumers are crafty. Why? Because they're only asking for a little peek, a little peck at a time, right? But what happens when you get a bunch of seagulls? They're all taking a little peck away at your garden that you've tended to and is beautiful with thriving relationships. What happens? All of a sudden your garden looks like that field out there at Francis Ave Central, which is barren, right? Seagull consumers seem harmless until a whole group of them take a little piece of your life. Boundaries allow us then to treat consumers, to not have to treat consumers as our mortal enemy. They don't have to be our enemy. We can still love them, but in a healthy manner. With what? Boundaries. If we can't set proper boundaries with consumers, we will always be exploited. They're always going to take and not want to give back. Consumers tend to be, most of the time, they tend to be on the outer. Remember the concentric circles that we talked about where you've got the God spot in the middle, and then you've got family and close friends here, and then you've got, I don't know, out here maybe workers, and then just people you meet, people further away from the God spot. The consumers tend to be in the outer circles of our friendships. And that's kind of good in a way. But what happens when we wind up with a family member or a best friend or a spouse? What happens when they start acting like a consumer? In other words, take, mine, 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 peck, peck, peck. These people might be tempted to demand more from us. Why? Because they think they deserve it, because they're closer to that God spot. Right? These people way out here, they're probably going, well, it's probably not going to do. These people in here, they think, oh, I deserve it. Right? The good news, though, we can still set boundaries with those people, our spouse, the close people to our God spot. We can still set boundaries. And you know why I say we can? Is even Jesus, right? He's our example. Even Jesus set boundaries with his closest friends. When Peter tried to obstruct Jesus' mission, which was he turned his face toward Jerusalem, that's where he was going, come heck or high water, right? Peter tried to obstruct his ultimate mission, and what did he do? He rebuked him pretty strongly, too. He said, get behind me. He didn't say, get behind me, Peter. He said what? Get behind me, who?
Satan.
Thank you. Satan. Get behind me, Satan. You see, Jesus had to set a limit with Peter because he was threatening his ultimate goal in life, which was to head to the cross. The closer the relationship is to our God spot, the greater the chance they will try to compete sometimes with God for that top spot, that head honcho spot. We can't let the needs of our closest relationships, though, gain the lion's share of our priorities and our affections, or they become what? Idols. They become in direct conflict with God. It can be very difficult, though, to set boundaries with these people that are on the inner circle. That's part of the problem. That's why they know sometimes they can exploit you or us, is because they know it's hard to say no to the people that are closest to our God spot. It's hard to set boundaries with people in our inner circles that are perhaps making bad choices. However, to keep our garden flourishing, to keep our own self healthy, we have to do it. We have to do it. And one way we can do it without ruffling feathers, hopefully, is to tell people of our intentions. It's pretty simple. It sounds simple, but it's really not. If somebody comes to you and they have something they would like you to do, we can let them know our intentions like this. I can't right now, Todd. I'm going to spend some time with the Lord right now. It's like, no, I set aside that evening to be with Janine. No, I can't do that on Saturday because I said I'd take the grandkids to the beach. All these statements set boundaries, they do, but they say this: I love you, I still love you. Remember the whole goal of this whole 9-week thing is keep your what?
Love on.
Thank you. Keep your love on, right? I love you. I haven't pulled back my love, but at this time I have other priorities. Remember, we can only control ourselves. So we say, I set aside that time for Janine. If they get upset and walk away mad, that's out of our control. We need to protect and cherish the ability to say no. Every yes needs to be backed up with and fortified. Backed up and fortified by a clear no to everything else. As we learned last week, Jesus was able to say no when he needed to, right? He was. In Mark, Jesus had sent the disciples across the Sea of Galilee into a windstorm while he spent time with the Father. Jesus loved downtime. He would go away and spend time to be with the Father, and that's exactly what he had done. So he sent the disciples, go get in the boat and go across, right? Well, it was a horrible storm. If you've seen the painting for Jesus, the storm on the Sea of Galilee, you'll see. We've seen it before. One of the disciples is leaning over the edge, like hurling, and they're just like terrified. It's horrible. And it says Jesus walked on the water. And it says in Mark 6:48, hear this, and I had never seen this before. Well, I'd read it before, but I don't think I'd ever seen it. It says, seeing them straining at the oars and the wind against them, at about the 4th watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea, and he wanted to help them. No, that's not what it said. You know what it said? It said this: he came to them walking on the sea, and he intended to pass them by. Has anybody ever read that before? I know I've read it, but I don't think I've ever seen that. He walked out on the water, and he was just going to go bye-bye, right? I'm like, what? Huh? Did I just read that right? And I still don't really understand it. Jesus' buddies are struggling in this life and death situation. He's going to just pass them by. I think what it means is it was an option, right? It was. Just like we have options to say yes or no. It was an option for him to just keep on trucking on the water. His yes, though, was made powerful by his ability to say no. That's the good news. Some people say yes to things that they really want to say no to. And it makes their choices powerless, not powerful. And it often creates what? Resentments. Big time resentments. Often resentments can build when we say yes so many times to things we actually needed to say no to. Okay? It's okay to say no. It really is. Unless it's tithing, then you don't get to say no. No, I'm just kidding. But it is okay to say no. When we clearly tell people what we will and will not do and follow through, our words have weight. You see, the beauty of that is people then know. Yeah, they know that they heard you say no a few times, and they know you mean it. But they also know when you say yes, you mean it too, right? If you're constantly saying yes to something you're going to say no to, your resentments build up. And then people start to wonder, I wonder if he really means it. But when we say no when we need to and yes when we can, it gives weight to our words. The more others encounter us honoring the boundaries we have set, the more that they will know that they can trust us with their lives. Which seems counterintuitive. Oh no, I can't help you today. Well, how are you helping me with my life? Well, I may not be today, but you know when you ask me next time, I will be there. So that the more they honor our boundaries, the more they will know and trust us with their lives. A no means no, but a yes, darn it, means yes. And they will know that we intend to carry that yes out every time. Setting and honoring and boundaries is essential in creating a relational culture of respect and honor and love and connection. And finally, next week, we will wrap all this up. And I think it's going to be called, Did You Love? Or something to the effect of, Did you keep your love on? Or did you love? It's going to be something like that. And we're going to kind of recap everything. Father, we know that sometimes you say no to us, but we know that you will always say yes, always to love, grace, compassion, and mercy, your unending love for us. Help us to be powerful people, able to say both yes and no and mean it. We love you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.